Hey everyone, it is Dave. Welcome in. It is time for module number 2. Congratulations, first of all, for making it through that first module. I know for many of us, starting something new can be kind of a daunting task, and now we're into module 2. Welcome as well to all those who have joined the class over the past week. This week we're going to finish out the Renaissance. We're going to spend 200 years in Italy. We're going to take a look at Italian art during the 15th and 16th centuries. And then we're also going to go north. We're going to see what the Renaissance looked like outside of Italy in places such as Flanders. For this week, we do have our 2 journal entries as normal, but we also have kind of a really fun perspective drawing. We're going to turn 2-dimensional shapes into 3-dimensional shapes. You kind of learned about that during the lecture on Italy in the 15th century. So with that, I'm going to take you over to the Canvas site. I'll walk you through module number 2. All right, here we are back on the Canvas site. Module 2 is this week. And again, you can kind of see it set up the exact same way that module 1 was. Up top, we've got our weekly video. Underneath that, for module 2, we have our summary, which I kind of already went over with you, our 3 lectures, the objectives, take some time to read through those, and our projects that are due this week include the perspective drawing and the 2 journals. Keep in mind that the journals are where you have some flexibility. They're not submitted until module 4, so if you run short of time, which occasionally happens, those can be put off, but those are due in module 4. And they do correlate to the material we learn in the lectures. So Italy in the 15th century is here. We've got our study guide, and then for further exploration, we've got a list of Florentine guilds. Not very important, it just gives you some names of the guilds that are around during this age. The readings are portraiture in Renaissance and Baroque Europe. And then there's also this book, which is optional, but it's a really great book on linear perspective, and it's for free. It's just a downloaded PDF. So if you find yourself into perspective, that's a cool thing to have. A video on 1-point linear perspective, a background on linear perspective, and then this is a very important video, Donatello's David, which is the most important sculpture that's created during this century. You also saw it on the documentary for last week's Medici Godfathers of the Renaissance. Our second lecture is Italy in the 16th century, and this is the time period that most of us are familiar with. This is Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, the Statue of David, the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper. That's all this time period. So we've got the lecture and study guide. For the further exploration section, we've got a really cool tour of the Sistine Chapel. We do have a couple of readings. A very short poem, I think it's only 5 lines, by Michelangelo, because Michelangelo could do everything. If you've never been to St. Peter's Cathedral, I'll have you go through this video. It's about a 20-minute video, but just jump from part to part. You would be amazed at how large this church is, as well as how much art is included. The baptism of Christ is the first time we have Leonardo da Vinci putting oil paint to canvas, and these are the 2 angels that he created in this painting, which is technically by the studio master, which is Verrocchio. And also a video on the Alba Madonna. After that, we're going to visit Northern Europe, and we've got our lecture, study guide, and for the further exploration section here, a little reading on the Limburg brothers, and also painting in Northern Renaissance. You do not have to read all of this, just down to this guy named Matthias Grunwald. For videos, the Arnolfini portrait, probably the most famous painting from that not only time period, but also that region of the world. We're also going to learn about printmaking, and we have 2 printmaking processes in this lecture. We have relief and we have intaglio. So one prints from the positive, one prints from the negative, but this is a really cool technique that is invented during the Renaissance to make multiple works of art. I'm going to jump down to the journals real quick. And for Journal 3, we have a work on the Last Supper. So make sure you have watched the video. Then you're going to download the assignment. And the assignment allows you to choose 2 topics out of 8 to do more research on. So here's the Last Supper as how we know it today. But this is how the Last Supper looked when it was first created. You're going to choose 2 topics. So topics could be such as line, color, light, composition, perspective, and so on. These are going to have a couple of questions for you to answer. And all you have to do is answer the first 2. So the third one is always optional. Just answer the first 2. Do this on a separate sheet of paper. Do not re-upload this entire worksheet. Then we're going to go over to the next journal entry, and that is the Arnolfini portrait. So with this project here, what I would like you to do is take a look at this reading by Erwin Panofsky. And in the study of art history, sometimes you're going to come across some very scholarly writing. This is one of those. It is a little bit dry, but this is what you would normally kind of read as an art historian. And I'm looking just for a reflection. What can you take from this writing about this painting? Because it is a fascinating work of art. It's something that I really wish we could meet in person to discuss this painting, because the class really brings a lot of really interesting information to this work. We look at all the iconography in the room and bring out its meaning. It's a really great artwork. Now for the final thing we're going to be doing this week is a perspective drawing. And the perspective drawing is due on Sunday the 25th, but you also have a week flexibility to turn it in late if you need to, but please try to get this in on time. It is not a difficult project by any means. It is a very fun 2-dimensional artwork that we're going to make 2-dimensional shapes into 3-dimensional shapes by use of a mathematical formula called perspective. You're going to learn about it in the lecture, and basically, if you can use drawing paper, that would be great. You want to use something a little bit larger than printer paper because it's just easier to use that way. You do want to use colored pencils, a straight edge, an eraser, and of course a camera to take pictures. What you're doing is creating a work like this. You need at least 7 shapes that were 2-dimensional, and you're going to make it 3-dimensional. I have all the instructions listed here. I even have a very short video on the steps so you can see it visually. If you've already done perspective and you want to be fancy and you want to do an interior scene, that's totally okay. I even have a supporting video on how to do a scene that is like this, but again, you need 7 objects. And usually I'll have a person or people who are in the engineering field, mechanical engineering and such, and they already have done perspective and they want to be fancy. And if you want to do an exterior landscape scene like this, you're more than welcome to. But again, all I'm asking for you to do is turn shapes into 3-dimensional forms. So add color to it, make sure to follow the steps. For instance, you can kind of see that there's a horizon line, there's a vanishing point, all the shapes move to the vanishing point, and that's what you want to do. You're going to submit 2 images, one of them in progress, one of them as the completed work. And for some final words here, again, make sure you have 7 shapes. Neatness does count, so please make sure to spend some time on this. Usually it takes a couple of hours to complete. Any examples shown during the semester are to be used as reference. Don't copy them. Same thing here. Don't copy any of these. You're creating your own unique work. Do not copy anything from online. I'm familiar with all the online perspective drawings. The project must be hand-drawn, so no computer-generated work. And make sure to follow the instructions. The first thing I look for is a border. Did you do a border 1 inch in from the edge? Did you create a horizon line? Did you create a vanishing point? That's why I have you create an image like this or submit an image like this that has your preliminary material present. Please make sure to use a straight edge. Do not freehand this by any means. Once again, the due dates are down here. It is worth 30 points, so it's pretty substantial. The rubric, I check to see if you follow directions, if you learn the concepts, which is linear perspective. Attention to craft and application of technique deals with neatness, the design aesthetic, how did your finished project look, and creativity and problem solving, because art is never easy. So if you came across any problems, how did you overcome those? So that's where we're sitting for that project. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to email me. And after this week, in Module 3, I will have office hours. So you'll be able to see and interact with me in person if you need to. And that'll be on Mondays and Wednesdays. So again, that'll be Module 3. That is everything for this week for Module 2. I will see you shortly with a video on Module 3.